खबरां दा लेखा जोखा जून 30 2025।
US-Canada restart trade talks after conflict over digital services tax. Canada and the United States have restarted trade talks after Prime Minister Mark Carney's government dropped Canada's digital service tax. US President Donald Trump suspended negotiations with Canada over the tax on Friday following a phone call between Carney and Trump on Sunday. Ottawa announced that it was eliminating the tax. White House economic advisor Kevin Hassett said Monday the US would immediately restart trade talks with Canada. A spokeswoman for the Prime Minister's office confirmed trade talks have resumed. Hassett made the comments in an interview with Fox News, adding Trump asked Canada to drop the tax at the G7 meeting in Alberta earlier this month. He said the removal of the tax means Canada and the US can get back to negotiations. The tax would have applied a 3% levy on revenue from Canadian users to large tech companies, including Amazon, Google, Meta, Uber, and Airbnb. Canada's move to drop the tax came just as the first payment under the tax was about to come due. The initial payment was retroactive to 2022 and would have collectively cost American companies US $2 billion. On Monday, business groups on both sides of the border praised the government for moving to eliminate the tax, while critics accused the government of capitulating to the US. Bloc Québec's leader said Carney campaigned during the election on finding a way out from under Trump's tariffs but has nothing to show for it so far. In a social media post, Blanchard and Carney's government made significant compromises on defense, borders, and counter tariffs, and now it is backtracking on a widely supported measure to protect culture, still with nothing to show for it. No gains or progress for Quebec and Canada, neither on tariffs nor on trade. This is deeply concerning, he said. Interim NDP leader Don Davis also sounded off on social media, saying the decision to end the digital services tax amounts to pure caving into Trump and his billionaire friends. Canada is a sovereign country with the right to make our own tax laws. Abandoning fair taxation of tech giants is unacceptable appeasement, Davis said. Davis said that coupled with Carney's openness to Trump's Golden Dome missile defense plan and his spirit to meet the new 5% NATO defense spending benchmark, it is looking more and more like Mr. Carney had his elbows up during the pre-game skate, only to drop them once the game started. However, the Canadian Chamber of Commerce called the decision to drop the tax a savvy one. The tax would have fallen on Canadian consumers, businesses, and investors in the form of higher cost and hurt our economy at a critical time. David Pierce, the Chamber's Vice President of Government Relations, said in a media statement. He said ending the tax moves us one step closer to a renewed, reliable trade deal with the United States. Rick Tuchuk, president of the American Chamber of Commerce in Canada, said the withdrawal of the tax was a welcome move by the Canadian government. This is a constructive decision that allows both countries to focus on strengthening their economic partnership. Businesses on both sides of the border rely on policies that support certainly collaboration and long-term growth, he said in a media statement.
Canada ਤੇ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਦਰਮਿਆਨ ਵਪਾਰਕ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਸਮਝੌਤੇ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਲਕ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਮੁੜ ਬਹਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਈ ਹੈ। ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਟੈਕਸ ਦੇ ਟੈਕ ਕੰਪਨੀਆਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਲੱਗਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਟੈਕਸ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਲਕ ਸ਼ੁੱਕਰਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਐਲਾਨਨਾਮੇ ਗਵਾਂਢੀ ਮੁਲਕ ਤੋਂ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਸਨ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਟਾਕ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਬੰਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਔਰ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਉਪਰੰਤ ਦਿਨ ਐਤਵਾਰ ਨੂੰ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਮਾਰਕ ਕਾਰਨੀ ਤੇ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਦੇ ਦੌਰਾਨ ਹੋਈ ਫੋਨ ਕਾਲ ਤੋਂ ਉਪਰੰਤ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਦੀ ਪੁਸ਼ਟੀ ਦੋਵੇਂ ਮੁਲਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਬੁਲਾਰਿਆਂ ਵੱਲੋਂ ਕਰ ਦਿੱਤੀ ਗਈ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਹੁਣ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਟ੍ਰੇਡ ਟਾਕਸ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਦੁਬਾਰਾ ਬਹਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਈਆਂ ਹਨ। ਔਰ ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਕਿ G7 ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਨੇ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨੂੰ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ ਸੀ ਕਿ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟੈਕਸ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਿ ਵੱਡੀਆਂ ਕੰਪਨੀਆਂ ਐਮਾਜ਼ਨ, ਉਬਰ ਵਗੈਰਾ ਹਨ, Airbnb, ਉਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਲੱਗਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਟੈਕਸ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਮਨਫੀ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾਵੇ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਵਿਰੋਧੀ ਧਿਰਾਂ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਬਲਾਕ ਤੇ NDP ਦੇ ਮੁਖੀਆਂ ਨੇ ਆਪਣਾ ਇਤਰਾਜ਼ ਜਤਾਇਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਸ ਕਦਮ ਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਫੈਸਲੇ ਨੂੰ ਗਲਤ ਕਿਹਾ ਤੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਗੱਲ ਕਹੀ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪ੍ਰਧਾਨ ਮੰਤਰੀ ਨੇ ਚੋਣਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਕੋਈ ਵਾਅਦੇ ਕੀਤੇ ਸੀ, ਪਰ ਹੁਣ ਲੱਗਦਾ ਰਾਸ਼ਟਰਪਤੀ ਦੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਉਹ ਝੁਕ ਗਏ ਨੇ। ਔਰ ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ ਕਿ ਉਧਰ ਸਰਕਾਰ ਨੇ ਆਪਣੇ ਲੈਵਲ ਤੋਂ ਇਸ ਗੱਲ ਨੂੰ ਕਲੀਅਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਜ਼ਰੂਰਤ ਹੈ ਇਸ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਦੋਵਾਂ ਮੁਲਕਾਂ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਪਾਰ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸਥਿਰਤਾ ਦਾ ਹੋਣਾ ਲਾਜ਼ਮੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਇਹ ਲਿਆ ਗਿਆ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਦਮ ਹੈ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਟੈਕਸ ਐਲੀਮੀਨੇਟ ਕਰਨ ਦਾ, ਇਸ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਦੋਵਾਂ ਮੁਲਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਖਰੀਦਦਾਰ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਫਾਇਦਾ ਹੋਏਗਾ।
Canada's unfinished story, defining a national identity in real time. From tariffs and annexation threats to terminated trade talks, it's been a difficult year for Canada. Increasing uncertainty, growing hostility, and deepening tension, political tension, have forced us to question our relationship with the United States and our position on the world stage. But they have also sparked a more personal reckoning here at home. For many Canadians, the off-going tariffs from what used to be our deepest, closest ally have felt like more than an economic blow. They felt like a slap in the face. What started as tongue-in-cheek jokes about Canada being 51st state quickly turned uncomfortable. What followed was a renewed and sometimes uneasy effort to define what we are, not just in contrast to the US, but on our terms. Are we really the polite peacekeepers the world thinks we are? The quiet neighbor standing in America's shadow? Are we the morally superior but less powerful cousin with public health care, bilingualism, and less restrictive immigration policies? Or are we something more complex, still in the process of becoming? Canada's national identity continues to evolve, with one commentator calling it an unfinished story shaped by crisis and compromises. Todd Maffin, president of the Engage Q Digital and former CBC radio host, has spent years exploring Canadian identity and culture. He says the question of whether a distinct Canadian identity exists is difficult to answer. Other countries have a story, but we are a young country, and I think we are still sort of working through the growing pains of what it means to reckon with our history and to understand where we fit in the world scheme. Maffin says one clear thing is that Canada is a country of compromises. We are a country that makes impossible deals and improbable bargains, he said. And I think we see that most often when there is a crisis. That's not new. He points to defining moments in our country's history, such as the Oka crisis in 1990, an 11-week standoff between Mohawk protesters and Canadian forces, as examples of how the past has shaped our present. Other major turning points: the FLQ crisis in 1970, the failure of the Meech Lake and Charlottetown Accords in the 1990s, and our ongoing reckoning with the shameful history of residential schools have helped forge our sense of self. Now we are facing an unexpected challenge that has left many Canadians feeling confused and betrayed. We are now in the moment of great reckoning with a former friend, a former trading partner, Maffin said. And like other pivotal moments in our history, he says this will force us to examine not just who we are, but who we want to be. Often, when Canadians are asked what makes us unique, the responses are some variation of, well, I'm not sure, but we aren't American. Tia McGuffey grew up in Edmonton, Alberta, but moved to the United States in her 20s, a dual citizen from birth. She's had the opportunity to reflect on Canadian identity from within the country and from across the border. Being born to American parents, I actually always felt a little bit more American than Canadian. And I kind of wanted to leave, go check out the States, she said. I really felt like they were more my people. After heading to California to go to college, things started to shift a bit. Why? Well, first off, McGuffey says many of the positive stereotypes about Canada and Canadians are accurate. The generic things that people say about Canadians are really true. We are really friendly, McGuffey said. When people find out that I'm Canadian, every single person tells that to says, oh, that makes sense. She also appreciates Canadians' role and image as a global peacekeeper, but what resonates most with her is the country's diversity. I felt like Canadians regularly celebrated other cultures, she said, pointing to Edmonton's annual Heritage Day Festival. As an example, I just remember all the 3 different cultural representations at the park. It was incredible just to see that celebration of all the different cultures. In contrast, she says, the current mood toward immigrants held by some people in the United States is upsetting to her. We're all immigrants, every single person in this country, unless you're indigenous, she said. It infuriates me to see the United States acting like we are too good to accept people from other cultures. Still, she's careful not to generalize when speaking about the entire country because there's a good and bad everywhere. It's hard to be here. It is because I'm like, I don't want to be an American right now, she said. But then like, oh, but wait, there's so many amazing Americans. I don't like to make those huge judgmental statements. Living in the shadow of the world's biggest superpower, Canadians have had to develop a sense of humor about ourselves, whether we like it or not. We hear it all from our neighbors. To the south, our accents are funny. We say sorry too much and we are behind times, as Colby Smulders' character on How I Met Your Mother once said. The 80s didn't come to Canada until the 93. Smulders, for the record, is Canadian born and raised in Vancouver. But making fun of ourselves, that isn't just acceptable, it's essential. Langer Kapalka and her husband Jason own a bar and grill on Toronto's friendly Queen Street. What began as an outer space themed bar called Off Wall soon became known for its playful pop-ups, full takeovers of the space with new names, menus, and decor. Hellbar was set up for Halloween, where you could order a themed cocktail for $6.66 plus your soul with a contract to sign. Then came beach mode, which was established as summer in the middle of winter. But as beach mode was wrapped up, Canada-US tensions were rising. The American president has elected and sworn in and then decided to slap a bunch of tariffs on us and then started talking the 51st state stuff, Kapalka said. We were like, no, we are not in anybody's 51st state anything. We are Canada. Wanting to celebrate the country as a sovereign nation and not just Americans had. The couple thought it would be fun and timely to lean into all things Canadian. Thus was born Grizzly Bear, billing itself as Canada's most Canadian bar and grill. The restaurant serves distinctly Canadian food like Montreal smoked meat, a Nanaimo bar, and a low mode, and of course poutine. The cocktail list is just as themed and includes the Grizzly, Caesar, and the Hatfield ground control to major rum. Grizzly Bar has been well received, Kapalka said, and not just by locals. We don't have to be Canadian to come to Grizzly Bar. You just have to love and support Canada and our sovereignty, she said. Quite a few Americans have visited, and they are always welcome. We are like, please come in and find out why our beer is better than yours. Factually, but also true, she added, but it's also come in and find out more about Canada. And it turns out a lot of Americans really like us too. After the tariff talk started heating up, the Buy Canadian movement exploded almost overnight. People had a lot of questions. What's the difference between made in Canada and product of Canada? How can we support Canadian companies? How can we avoid buying Americans altogether? Mavin started answering these questions in videos posted to social media. They proved to be very popular and not just among Canadians. In the comments, there were a lot of Americans surprisingly saying, how can we help Canada because we don't like this either, he said. So I was bored one night and I made a video kind of just off the top of my head saying, hey, if you Americans really do support Canada, then why don't we pick up a weekend? You all come up here and spend your money on the Vancouver Island economy. It turns out that many Americans were eager to do just that. Within 72 hours of issuing this open invitation, over 2,000 people had reserved. Melvin worked with the city of Nanaimo in putting an event together, the Nanaimo Infusion, that took place April 25th to 27th at Matthew Sutton Park. Visitors were greeted with live music, food trucks, pop-up artisan market, and even the mayor, Leonard Krog. It was an enormous success. It was like life-changing for me, truly. Since the event, he has found a new focus. One of the things that I noticed is that there were a lot of American healthcare workers who had come up, he said. They were checking out Vancouver Island to see if that was an escape hatch, essentially a place where they could bring their skills and get away from the circus down south. Melvin repurposed his website into a resource for U.S. healthcare workers to relocate and work on Vancouver Island, helping break down on all the necessary steps. We spoke to a number of all different organizations, including Health Match BC, the College of Physicians and Surgeons, the College of Nurses, and the Division of Family Practice to help simplify things. Each organization has its own website, and those websites are usually really good, but none of those websites talk about where their organization fits in the whole process, he said. So that's sort of what I tried to do. I called these groups and found out, like, where does it fit? His thinking was that even if he got the oneness to move here, it would be worth it. His expectations have already been exceeded. I think we are up to 5 now because of that infusion event, he said. They have accepted jobs and they are just currently booking moving trucks and things like that. He says he's also talking to a doctor from Alaska who's considering the move. Meanwhile, as we work to regain our footing after the initial shift in our relationship with the United States, we are embracing all things Canadian. And according to Kapalka, the most Canadian thing that ever happened at Grizzly Bar. She says they invited Chris Hadfield, the Canadian astronaut, to their opening party. He happened to be in town because he was performing at a benefit for a hospital for sick children in Toronto, so he stopped by at the party. Toronto musician Jodo Arnott was performing for the crowd, playing a full Canadian set list. To everyone's surprise, Hadfield decided to join Arnott on stage. Chris Hadfield, who as you may remember went viral for his cover of Space Oddity in Space, decided to get up and do a surprise cover. Someone filmed it and sent it to the band. He posted it on social media and tens of thousands of people saw it and shared it. That was Canadian times a million, she said. It might have been the proudest moment of my life. It is time for Canadians to stop underestimating ourselves. We believe the story of Canadians being docile, resistant to change, and we are not that, he said. When you look at moments where our country has been tested, where our people have been tested, we come together in a way that I think no other nation does. We do not let people down. We don't back away from things. In a year defined by uncertainty, Canada has shown an inner strength many didn't know we had. I think that surprises the rest of the world. I think it surprised Trump. I think the United States is expecting that Canadians would just be the polite people that they think we are and that he would just roll over. They were wrong and we will remember being underestimated. I always sort of joke that Canada has 2 official sports, hockey and holding grudges, he said. And I think that sometimes the world forgets that. Or maybe they never really knew. There's a general belief that Americans primarily have no idea that we are up to all something McGaffey says isn't true. It's interesting to me how little people know about Canada down here. A lot of people don't know any of the provinces. I'll tell them, I'm from Edmonton, Alberta, and they'll be like, I don't know where that is. That doesn't mean they aren't interested. Most people think it's pretty cool, and she said a lot of people lately with the climate down here say, oh, you're really lucky. And almost everyone says the same thing, oh, you are Canuck, mispronouncing the word as Canuck. They all say Canuck. Every single one of them, she laughed. I'm like, that's not how it's pronounced. It is interesting to her that while she didn't claim Canada for a long time, she now claims it almost exclusively. I'm Canadian, she said. I was born to American parents in Canada, born and raised Canadian. Like McGuffey, many Canadians are finding new appreciation for the Great White North. But Meffin says it's important to note that Canada is far from perfect. We have a lot of work to do, she said. Our relationship with Indigenous people, for one, has been a nightmare. It's getting better, but it's far from done. With so much change happening right now, Canada has a rare opportunity to re-evaluate our priorities. Every time we as people begin to reckon with our past, by definition, we set the course for the future. I think moments like this, we can use it as a bit of a springing point to not just sort of look at what Canada is, but to redefine what Canada can be. For his part, he says he's excited to continue exploring what it means to be a Canadian. I've written about 80 essays or so. Some people call them rants. He said, I'm putting together a collection of a bunch of them, and I'm going to give it away on Canada Day. It'll be like a download from the website. But for Meffin, writing it about more than sharing ideas, it's about capturing how we arrived here and shaping the path ahead. I always think about my nephew, he said, when he is a grandparent and I'm long gone. He will be telling the story to Canada's history. The story he'll be telling is today.
ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਦੀ ਗੱਲ ਕਰਦੇ ਹਾਂ ਤਾਂ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਸਨੀਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸੋਚ ਸਮਝ ਤੇ ਅਕੀਦੇ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਸਮਝਣਾ ਜ਼ਰੂਰੀ ਹੈ। ਨਿਰਸੰਦੇਹ ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾਤਰ ਜਾਣਿਆ ਤੇ ਪਹਿਚਾਣਿਆ ਜਾਂਦਾ ਕਿ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਲੋਕ ਨੇ ਬੜੇ ਪੋਲਾਈਟ ਨੇ, ਬੜੇ ਸਾਊ ਨੇ, ਬੀਬੇ ਨੇ। ਪਰ ਇਹਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਵੀ ਕੋਈ ਸ਼ੱਕ ਨਹੀਂ ਹੈ ਕਿ 90s ਦੀ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਇਤਿਹਾਸ ਦੇ ਪੰਨਿਆਂ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਨਿਗਾਹ ਮਾਰਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਮਾਹਰ ਨੇ ਕਈ ਗੱਲਾਂ ਸਾਂਝੀਆਂ ਕੀਤੀਆਂ 90s ਦੀ ਕਹਾਣੀ ਔਰ ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਉਪਰੰਤ ਮੌਜੂਦਾ ਸਮੇਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚੋਂ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ 1 ਸਾਲ ਤੋਂ ਜੋ ਚੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਮੁਤਲਕ ਗੱਲਬਾਤ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਲੋਕਾਂ ਦੇ ਮੁਲਕ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕਰੈਕਟਰਿਸਟਿਕਸ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਕਿਸ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਉੱਭਰ ਕੇ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ। ਦੁਨੀਆ ਭਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਬੇਸ਼ੱਕ ਪਹਿਚਾਣ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੀ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਦੇ ਗੁਆਂਢ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਂਤੀ ਪਸੰਦ ਤੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਮਦਦਗਾਰ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਰਹਿਣ ਵਾਲੇ ਮੁਲਕ ਦੇ ਤੌਰ ਤੇ ਵੀ ਕੀਤੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਪਰ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਜੋ ਹੈ ਅਪ ਨਾਰਥ ਸਫੇਦ ਬਰਫਾਨਾ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਭਰਿਆ ਹੋਇਆ ਔਰ ਉਸੇ ਤਰੀਕੇ ਨਾਲ ਮਜ਼ਬੂਤ ਇਰਾਦਿਆਂ ਵਾਲਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਸਾਹਮਣੇ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਇਹ ਮਾਹਰ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਗੱਲ ਦੱਸੀ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਭਾਵੇਂ ਕਿ ਉਹਦੀ ਪੈਦਾਇਸ਼ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਅਮਰੀਕਨ ਪੇਰੈਂਟਸ ਤੋਂ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੈ ਔਰ ਦੋਵਾਂ ਮੁਲਕਾਂ ਦੀ ਨੈਸ਼ਨੈਲਿਟੀ ਹੋਣ ਦੇ ਬਾਵਜੂਦ ਉਹਦਾ ਝੁਕਾਅ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਅਮਰੀਕਾ ਵੱਲ ਰਿਹਾ। ਪਰ ਮੌਜੂਦਾ ਹਾਲਾਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਕਿਸ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਮੁਲਕ ਤੇ ਕੈਨੇਡੀਅਨ ਨਜਿੱਠ ਰਹੇ ਨੇ ਉਸਨੇ ਵਿਖਿਆਨ ਕਰਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਕਿ ਕਿਸ ਪ੍ਰਕਾਰ ਉਸਦਾ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਨਜ਼ਰੀਆ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਤਬਦੀਲੀ ਆਈ ਹੈ।
Man arrested after alleged knife slashing in White Rock. A man was arrested after an alleged stabbing and police chase in White Rock Sunday night. The White Rock RCMP say it responded to reports of a fight involving knife on Oxford Street near Marine Drive around 9:50 p.m. When officers arrived, they reportedly saw the driver of a vehicle attempting to flee the scene and pursued him. Police say a high-risk traffic stop followed. A man matching the suspect description was inside the vehicle and he was arrested and transported to White Rock RCMP cells, Mounties said Monday. Officers also found a victim at the scene who paramedics treated for injuries consistent with being slashed.
ਕੱਲ ਵਾਈਟ ਰੌਕ ਵਿਖੇ 9:50 ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਆ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਬੁਲਾਇਆ ਗਿਆ ਔਰ ਜਦੋਂ ਉੱਥੇ ਪਹੁੰਚੇ ਤਾਂ ਇੱਕ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਸਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਛੁਰੇ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਜ਼ਖਮੀ ਕੀਤਾ ਹੋਇਆ ਸੀ ਔਰ ਇੱਕ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਹੋਰ ਗੱਡੀ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਭੱਜਣ ਦੀ ਪ੍ਰਕਿਰਿਆ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਸ਼ਾਮਲ ਸੀ ਔਰ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਨੇ ਉਸ ਦਾ ਪਿੱਛਾ ਕੀਤਾ ਔਰ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਪਕੜਿਆ ਔਰ ਇਸ ਤੋਂ ਉਪਰੰਤ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਪਕੜਨ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੁਲਿਸ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਕਾਮਯਾਬ ਰਹੀ ਉੱਥੇ ਪੀੜਤ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਸੀ ਜ਼ਖਮੀ ਵਿਅਕਤੀ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਉਸ ਨੂੰ ਵੀ मदद है जिहड़ी दित्ती गई और उसके जिहड़े जख्म सन वो लगातार निरंतर इस गल दा प्रदर्शनी कर रहे सन कि उसनों स्लैश किया गया, भाव छुरे दे नाल उसनों जख्मी किया गया है।
Alberta by-election called on August 18, giving Poilievre path to House. Pierre Poilievre has chosen one of the safest possible places to make his return to the House of Commons. But the rural Alberta riding he is hoping to win in an August by-election could also be dangerous territory for the Conservative leader. Damien Courac resigned his seat in Battle River, Crawford, earlier this month after winning more than 82% support in the April 28th election. Prime Minister Mark Carney has set August 18 as the date for the vote. While almost no one expects Poilievre to lose, the decision to run in this particular part of the country has some analysts scratching their heads. It sounded like he was looking for some sort of a cakewalk by-election where he could easily get in. But he may have had a miscalculation there, said Janet Brown, a pollster and political commentator based in Calgary. What may have seemed like an easy riding on the surface is going to look more complicated. Separatist sentiment has been on the rise in Alberta since the Liberals managed an election win that seemed unlikely, if not impossible, just 6 months ago. Alberta Premier Danielle Smith's government has introduced a bill to make it easier to launch a citizen-initiated referendum, including a vote on separation from Canada. A group called the Alberta Prosperity Project has pledged to push for a referendum on the question. Do you agree that the province of Alberta shall become an independent country and cease to be a province of Canada? Former Conservative Cabinet Minister Stockwell Day, he said he thinks a referendum is a good idea. Provinces cannot unilaterally separate from the country even if a referendum vote did succeed, something that no polls suggest is likely. Alberta would have to enter lengthy negotiations with other provinces, the federal government and indigenous groups. Smith said on Thursday that she's never seen such a high level of separatist sentiments and warned about the results of a provincial by-election in Alls-Desbury, 3 Hills last week, where a separatist candidate got just shy of 18% of the vote. The Premier also said the problem is really in Ottawa's hands and challenged the Carney government to scrap the proposed emissions cap and repeal the West Coast tanker ban. The town of Trochu in within both Battle River, Crawford and Alls-Desbury, 3 Hills, meaning residents are now set to cast a third of the ballots in 5 months. Barry Klatke has been mayor of Trochu for 21 years. Speaking as a resident, not as a mayor, he said he's worried that the separatist candidate might make headway in the province race.
प्रधान मंत्री मार्क कार्नी वालों अल्बर्टा दे विच जिहड़ी खास तौर दे उत्ते सीट दी इलैक्शन दी डेट निर्धारित कर दित्ती गई है। याद रहे कंजरवेटिव पार्टी दे मुखी पीयर पॉलिवर ने इलैक्शन दे विच इस सीट तो लड़न दे लई जगह जिहड़ी है वो खाली कीती सी और हुण इस दे विच जिहड़ी इलैक्शन आ वो अगस्त महीने दे विच निर्धारित कर दित्ती गई है। पर इस दे उत्ते बहुत सारी जिहड़ियां हुण खुंड चर्चा जिहड़ी शुरू हो गई है कि भावें तकरीबन 82% वोट के नाल पहला कैंडीडेट है जिहड़ा कंजरवेटिव पार्टी का वो जितया सी और इसे करके इसनूं बड़ी सखावी ते सेफ सीट मंदिया होया पार्टी मुखी पीयर पॉलिवर इस सीट तो लड़न दे बारे फैसला किया गया सी और हुण मारा दा कहना है कि जरूरी नहीं कि इस तरह हो सके और ये कोई इतना ज़्यादा आसान नहीं होएगा जितना आसान मन्निया जा रहा है। कारण है पिछे अल्बर्टा दे विच सूबे दी पूरे मुल्क दे नालों कनेडा भर दे नालों अलैदगी दी जिहड़ी मुहिम है वो शुरू हुई है और इस मुहिम के तहत भावें सूबा मुख्यमंत्री भी इस वल नूं काफ़ी ज़्यादा उत्साहत ने और मारा दा यह कहना है कि इहो जे पोलीटिकल वातावरण दे विच सूबे दे विच वो सीट जिहड़ी कि सब तो ज़्यादा सुरक्षित मन्नी जाती सी वो इन्नी ज़्यादा सुरक्षित शायद ना होवे।
Gas prices staying low before Canada Day in Metro Vancouver. As predicted, the price of gas has continued to settle or drop in Metro Vancouver ahead of the holiday Tuesday. The average retail price per litre has fallen 15.3 cents in the last week, according to Gas Buddy's survey of over 425 stations in the area. On Thursday, prices per litre were hovering around the mid-$50s range. Analyst Patrick Dehan at Gas Buddy predicted that the prices would hold or continue to decline before Canada Day. In Vancouver, the cost of gas averaged $1.52 per litre Sunday. Dehan says the mid-$50s range is close to where the price per litre was before the more recent attacks in Israel and Iran. What goes up eventually does come down, and so I do expect that gas prices will continue to slowly go down around the Lower Mainland and across Metro Vancouver, really much of Canada, where prices did go up significantly, said Dehan on Thursday. Gas Buddy's money report says, including the change in gas prices in Vancouver, during the past week, prices Sunday were 24.8 cents per litre, lower than the same day 1 year ago, and are 7.8 cents per litre, lower than a month ago. Looking forward, Dehan says relief of the pumps is likely to continue. Some provinces may see the lowest Canada Day fuel prices in several years, as long as geopolitical tensions remain stable and the country avoids major disruptions like a significant hurricane impacting US supply. We could see further prices drop into the summer.
ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਡੇ ਤੋਂ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਗੈਸ ਦੀਆਂ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਾਫੀ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਵੱਡੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਮੀ ਸੀ ਉਸ ਦੀ ਪੇਸ਼ਗੋਈ ਕੀਤੀ ਗਈ ਸੀ, ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕਿ ਨਿਰੰਤਰ ਜਾਰੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ 15 ਸੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਹੈ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਮੀ ਆਈ ਹੈ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਲੀਟਰ ਰੈਗੂਲਰ ਗੈਸ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ। ਔਰ ਯਾਦ ਰਹੇ, ਅਗਰ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਸਾਲ ਦੇ ਐਸੇ ਵਕਤ ਦੀ ਦੇਖੀ ਜਾਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ 24 ਸੈਂਟ ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਲੀਟਰ ਦੀ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਮਿਕਦਾਰ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਮੀ ਹੈ। ਔਰ ਨਾਲ ਦੀ ਨਾਲ ਇਹ ਵੀ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈ ਕਿ ਪਿਛਲੇ ਕੁਝ ਸਮੇਂ ਤੋਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਸਭ ਤੋਂ ਜ਼ਿਆਦਾ ਇਸ ਵਕਤ ਦੀਆਂ ਘੱਟ ਨੇ। ਔਰ ਇਸਾਂ ਦੀਆਂ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਵਾਧਾ ਆਉਣ ਦਾ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਸੂਰਤ ਆ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਕਿਸੇ ਵੀ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਕੁਦਰਤੀ ਤੌਰ ਦੇ ਉੱਤੇ ਆਉਣ ਵਾਲੀਆਂ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਦਵਾਈਆਂ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਕਾਰਨ ਹੀ ਵੱਧ ਜਿਹੜੀ ਕੀਮਤ ਆ ਹੋ ਸਕਦੀ ਹੈ। ਪਰ ਇਹ ਦੱਸਿਆ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਕਿ ਕੈਨੇਡਾ ਦੇ ਆਸ-ਪਾਸ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਕੀਮਤਾਂ ਨੇ ਇਹ ਤਕਰੀਬਨ $1.50 ਜਾਂ $1.52 ਪ੍ਰਤੀ ਲੀਟਰ ਦੇ ਕਰੀਬ ਜਿਹੜੀਆਂ ਨੇ रेगुलर गैस दी कीमतां ने वो दर्ज हुई हैं।
इसी के साथ हमें दी जगह इजाजत। खबरों दा लेखा जोखा के इस सेगमेंट से साथ देने के लिए शुक्रिया।